Well, a warm welcome along to the latest edition of the World Sports Report video podcast. It's me, Jack Ogalbe, joined by Tom McGarry, and we're going to have a quick look at this weekend's Premier League fixtures. Friday to Sunday action this week, with, of course, European action in midweek. We're going to start with Friday's game. It's Southampton struggling at the bottom of the table against Leicester. Southampton 21-10 to win the game. Draw is 12-5, Leicester 13-10. The Saints were a touch fortunate last time out against Wolves, drawing 1-1, but with the help of VAR, Leicester getting back to winning ways with a 2-1 victory. For me, Tom, this is a Leicester win. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think the value bet, 13-10, as you mentioned, is really good odds for a Leicester side flying at the top of the table. Interesting fact about Leicester, they haven't lost or dropped any points against a side that finished outside the top 7 from last season. So they've lost to Liverpool and Manchester United, a couple of draws with Wolves and Chelsea. Apart from that, when they come up against sides below them in the table, they tend to swat them away with their really fast-paced, high-tempo style under Brendan Rodgers. They look a real threat. There's a lovely balance about this Leicester team, isn't there, between the players that were there when they won the title a couple of years ago. You're looking at Kasper Schmeichel, Jamie Vardy, but then this young, exciting team as well that's coming through, which is really spearheaded by James Maddison, who should be fit and firing for this game after his recent illness and injury ailments. Yeah,
well, I'm going for a 10-3. Leicester win, both teams to score. I think it's a really good option. Both of these sides won the away legs, if you like, of this tie last season, and it is tough to look past them.
It really is, and to add a bit more to that as well, Jamie Vardy has been in fantastic goal-scoring form since Brendan Rodgers became manager back in February. 15 Premier League goals during that time. He's 11-8 to be an anytime scorer in this game, which represents really good value. He notched against Burnley last time out, so for me, that's the obvious bet to go alongside, as you say, Leicester to win and potentially both teams to score.
Yeah, we're going to fast forward on to Saturday next. So we're going to go to the evening kickoff as well. Burnley against Chelsea. Burnley 7-2, the draw 3-1. Chelsea 8-11. Chelsea been flying, haven't they, Tom?
Yeah, 6 wins on the bounce now across all competitions, not just scoring goals as they have done throughout the season, but also starting to keep clean sheets. I think Frank Lampard said the midweek European victory over Ajax is the blueprint he wants to take forward, and Chelsea do look like a side who should be able to comfortably finish in the top 4 on present form. They have struggled a bit against Burnley in the past. There's been a couple of victories for the Clarets over recent years, but interestingly, those successes for Burnley have come, or tended to come, at Stamford Bridge. Burnley's last win over Chelsea at Turf Moors way back in 1983, so I think you do have to fancy the Chelsea victory. Burnley, similarly to Leicester, we were speaking about earlier, they have a good record against the sides in and around them in the table, but they do still struggle against those big hitters like Chelsea. So for me, the Chelsea bet is probably the way to go. Mason Mount is 15-8 to score any time. He's been really good this season since breaking into the side. He'd be my tip as a potential goal scorer. On the other side of things, Chris Wood has been really picking up where Ashley Barnes started the season by scoring a lot of Burnley's goals. He's also 15-8 to net any time.
Yeah, I fancy the 23-10 on the away win. Both teams to score. It's also a really good value price, 33-5 for a 2-1 Chelsea victory. That's something that really appeals to me, I think. Next up, we're going to look for Arsenal against Crystal Palace. Moving on to Sunday's games, there's 4 Sunday games in the Premier League this week. Arsenal 9-20, draw 15-4, Palace 11-2, and Palace are, well, Arsenal as well, they're both pretty enigmatic this season. Arsenal losing 1-0 last time out, away at Sheffield United. Palace, they were poor against Manchester City, didn't really give it a go, but they have beaten both West Ham and Manchester United on the road this season. They'll be looking for an upset at a ground that they've had a bit of a success over in recent years.
Yeah, 3-2 victory towards the end of last season was a really eye-catching result. These two sides only separated by a point and a place in the standings, so it might be tighter than people initially think. Arsenal are a lot better at home than they are on their travels. We saw how terrible they were against Sheffield United on Monday. That was a typical Arsenal away performance against a side lower down the table. I think at the Emirates on the Sunday, they should be okay with this game. Palace are traditionally, over the past couple of seasons, more dangerous on the road than they are on their own patch. But I do think Arsenal will want a response. They'll want to re-establish their own top four credentials. So I'm looking at a home victory. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is an obvious candidate to score in this game. It's odds on really 1-2 that he'll score any time in the fixture, which tells its own story. But I do think he is someone worth looking at. I'd expect him to start this game in the central striking role. So for me, it should be relatively comfortable for Arsenal.
Yeah, I think it'll be comfortable for Arsenal. Something around the 3-1, maybe even 2-1, 13-8 home win. Both teams to score. I think that's a pretty fair price. I've seen Arsenal a few times on Sundays after they come back from the Europa League. They do have a habit of twisting things around, rotating the squad. And it's always exciting.
It is, it absolutely is. And they do have a bit of strength in depth to their squad now as well, so they can juggle the European Thursday, Sunday fixture schedule. One other bet to potentially throw out there is Luka Milivojevic to pick up a yellow card at some point. He's got 6 already in 7 Premier League appearances this season, already served a suspension, so I think you've always got to look at him when you're dabbling in the cards market.
Absolutely. We're going to close off with, for me, the game of the weekend. Liverpool against Tottenham. Liverpool are 1-2 to win the match. Draw 7-2. Spurs 5-1. Both pretty convincing in midweek. 4-1 for Liverpool away in Genk. 5-0 for Spurs at home to Red Star Belgrade. And, well, the big question on everyone's lips, how Spurs stop the rot?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. It was a quite convincing victory, or it was convincing, over Red Star Belgrade. But there were moments, particularly in the first half, where the Serbian side did still cause Spurs problems. So I think the jury is still out on whether they've turned the corner. Spurs have to do that for a 3-4 game spell before we can really say they're back to their best. And this is going to be such a test of their credentials against a Liverpool side who were on that fabulous winning run until last weekend when they were halted by Manchester United, but they still showed the grit and mentality they have under Jurgen Klopp to grind out a draw when it looked like for large spells they were going to lose that game. They had an impressive victory over Genk in the week in the Champions League as well, as you mentioned. So for me, I think Liverpool, although this might be tight and it could be the odd goal in it, a 2-1 perhaps, I do think Liverpool will win. My standout bet is not related to the match result, actually. I'm looking at a cards market once again. Serge Aurier, he likes a tackle, doesn't he? He's already been sent off this season in the Premier League. He's 7-4 to be carded any time, so that would be my tip.
I saw him described as unpredictable by one of our writers this week, so I think that's a pretty fair assumption. I'm actually going for a Liverpool win. Both teams to score. A bit of a theme from me today, isn't it? 13-8 available on that. But I'm actually going to go for a goal scorer bet from Spurs as well. Harry Kane's got a magnificent record against the Reds, and he's 2-1 to score at any time. Got a brace in the week, Tom, and he seems to be carrying his side at the moment.
Absolutely, and it tends to be when Harry Kane starts scoring and playing well, then Spurs are a much better team. The first goal could be really crucial in this match. If Liverpool get it, you imagine Spurs, their fragile confidence at the moment, their confidence will disintegrate further. But if they could get their noses in front, then it could be a real stern test for Liverpool.
That's all we've got time for today. Thank you from myself, Jack and Tom. Remember to hit that subscribe button on YouTube and follow us across social media channels.